Many of our public school programs, including Title I, school nutrition programs, and English language proficiency programs, rely on federal funding. Currently, we do not keep information on non-citizens that go to our schools. We are hopeful that the lawmakers will pass a rule we passed through this board last month to help us with that. But currently, we need help with guidance on how to successfully fulfill President Trump's executive order. So we've asked Attorney General Drummond two specific questions. Does this executive order impact federally funded school programs in Oklahoma? And number two, if so, what steps should we take here as an agency to ensure compliance? I want to be clear, we stand with President Trump. We are committed to working along President Trump to ensure that our schools follow his executive orders and his law. So we are very hopeful that we will hear back from the Attorney General soon with the guidance on how to implement President Trump's executive order here in education.
Superintendent Walters, can I ask you a question on that topic?
Are we kosher to do that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
So at the last board meeting, was it an administrative rule was passed about collection of immigration status is that part of what you've asked the AG to respond to?
No. What we've asked the AG to respond to, the AG's already made a public comment that that's legal and kosher. What we're asking for is a legal explanation of how do we abide by this latest executive order, specifically on federal funding, specifically on those federal funded programs.
Okay. Well, I'm concerned about the immigration status issue because we've had a lot of pushback in my area from parents, students, and I would respectfully request that until we get all of this sorted out with the AG, that we suspend all activity related to immigration.
Board counsel?
That's not on the agenda today. We're limited to what we can discuss. Those matters, to the extent, need to be presented to the public, so the public would be advised to discuss that. It's not on the agenda today.
So then can we request a special meeting to have that conversation?
Is there anything on the agenda that would allow for a vote of a special meeting?
There is not anything on the agenda to request a special meeting. There are statutes that address that, but as we sit here today, there is not anything that would permit that to go forward.
So a board member can't request action to be reviewed?
You have the ability to request that action be reviewed, but it needs to be included on an agenda item so the public is aware of what is being discussed today.
So let me rephrase that. Can a board member request an item be put on the agenda for discussion?
You can request it, yes.
Okay, so I would request a special meeting with that agenda item to review all of these items related to immigration status.
Respectfully, that needs to be done outside of this meeting.
Why?
No.
I don't understand that.
Because the topic that you're requesting is not noticed up to be discussed today.
And
You just said it could.
We are limited to the please, we need decorum. We are limited to discussing the issues that have been presented with the notice provisions to the public. You as a member can certainly request Superintendent Walters outside of this meeting to include an agenda item that relates to that.
May I ask a question on that line? So is it totally in the superintendent's discretion whether to put it on the agenda?
The superintendent, as his role as the chairman of the board, sets the agenda.
Okay, is there law that says that? Where is the statute that says the board has no authority to set anything on an agenda or request it, or if the board voted to say we want this on the agenda next time, subject to open meeting, where is that says we can't do that?
Again, we're getting very far afield of what we're here to talk about as it relates to the agenda. I'd be happy to talk to both of you in the appropriate time and the appropriate manner about those things. And I think that there are ways to go about what you're doing, but doing it today, in my view, is not the correct thing. We need to stick with the agenda, and we can take those matters up at the appropriate time through the appropriate channels.
Okay, well,
I'm sorry to interrupt, Board Council, so that the record of this meeting is clear. I think that we're dealing with multiple issues here. One has to do with President Trump's executive order and the effect or the possible effect, if any, on federal programs that run through the schools. The other is whether or not there can be a special agenda called to, in essence, rescind a prior board action. As you know and as others know, the rules proceeding through are basically on a statutory calendar. So I just want to make clear that with regard to some or all of these issues, the department, and as chairman of the department, we're going to reserve a right to respond to any of these issues, whether in writing or orally or both.
Understood.
I do believe we have a second. Do we have a second on the floor for an administrative order?
There can be no action taken.
There's no
Motion to
action
an
to be
action.
taken. There's not an action item to be taken on that.
Okay, thank you.
so just for the record, though, the superintendent brought up a topic. I asked a question, and the topic was brought up per the agenda. And so I just want to understand that this is not an item that we brought up, it's an item the superintendent brought up.
Well, I think it's good to separate. Superintendent Walters was providing you information not to be voted on of things that are going on in the Department of Education with respect to President Trump's recent executive order. He's providing information to you regarding that, not expecting a vote one way or the other. And you have used that to say, I want to talk about a matter that was considered at last month's agenda. And my only statement as legal counsel is there is nothing on the agenda with respect to the rules that were passed last month. We certainly can talk about how and if those can get on the agenda, but it can't be on the agenda today because it's not been properly noticed under the Open Records Act.
Okay, I understand. For the record, I'd like to request a special meeting for discussion, but I understand your position.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. To be clear, I will always stand with President Trump and enforce his executive orders, especially when it comes to illegal immigration and the cost to our schools.